This Fox News segment turns into absolute chaos fast, but underneath all the yelling is a much bigger argument about politics, loyalty, and accountability. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what you think about this exchange. Jessica Tarlov got into another chaotic clash with Jesse Watters and Gutfeld on Fox News The Five, and this time the argument completely spiraled into a debate about Donald Trump's morality, political worship, and why MAGA supporters get so defensive whenever anyone criticizes him. What started as a discussion about Trump talking to children about war quickly turned into Gutfeld basically asking the age-old MAGA question: why do liberals care so much if people like Trump? And honestly, Jessica Tarlov gave the most straightforward answer possible, because Trump is morally bankrupt, and when people support him politically, that support has real-world consequences for millions of people. But instead of engaging with that argument seriously, Jesse Watters and Gutfeld immediately shifted into the usual Fox News routine, shouting over her, pretending Democrats support crime and chaos, deflecting away from Trump's actual behavior, and framing all criticism of Trump as emotional obsession, instead of legitimate concern about the damage his policies and conduct cause. The exchange became especially revealing because you could clearly see the difference between how Trump supporters often treat politics like team sports and how critics of Trump view him as someone with actual power over people's lives. And honestly, beneath all the yelling and sarcasm, this clip exposed something much bigger about modern American politics: the transformation of political support into personal identity and emotional loyalty, especially around Donald Trump.
I mean, do you have a theory about why liberals care so much that other people like Trump?
Because he's like a completely morally bankrupt person that's implementing.
But why should you care that I like him?
You don't care about morality.
Of course we do.
Your party doesn't support standards of morality.
I want to talk about Trump and kids.
Let's do it.
Come on. That was what this segment should have been about. He was talking about Iran.
Yeah, he said they were going to die.
They were going to die. How do we not talk about that? I love how he doesn't talk down to kids. He told them the specifics, the grisly facts about war. Now, you could argue he should have tamped it down, but it speaks to the nature of Trump and that his critics get wrong, which is he doesn't talk down or condescend, whether you're a child or a woman, Dana.
Oh.
Yes. Condescend means talking.
Oh, thank God.
He will, he doesn't care if you're gay, non-binary, Asian, black, Mexican, a woodland nymph. He doesn't see identity. The kids are there. He goes, this is what's going to happen. He's great with kids because he's kind of great with people. He's one-on-one and in groups. And if you don't like him.
He's great with kids, Donald Trump is, because he's intellectually and emotionally on the same level as kids. I would say these kids were probably intellectually and emotionally superior to Donald Trump. But go on, Gutfeld.
That's fine. I don't care. But why do you care that I like him? That's the key to all this. We talk about these, fractious relationships, but I'm okay with you hating Trump. Why aren't you okay with me liking him? If you could just look in the mirror and answer that question, liberals, you would feel so much better. Why does it bother you that people like Trump? Perhaps there's a large role in your dissatisfaction. It might be your own personal resentments. You may play a large role emotionally in how you feel about Trump. Maybe if you get over that, you'll spend less time and effort being so miserable.
Do you have an answer to that, Jessica?
Why do I care that you like him?
I don't think she cares.
I mean, do you have a theory about why liberals care so much that other people like Trump?
Because he's like a completely morally bankrupt person that's implementing.
But why should you care that I like him?
Well, I have accepted that you like him, but I think it's hard for people when they care about someone.
Whoa.
To say,
this is the perfect thing. Why do they care? Tell me why. What's underneath?
Okay. Well, care leads to voting, and then voting leads to bad policies.
Why can I not be a friend of yours if you like Trump?
If he was your friend, I'd be much more chill about it. But because you like him, he's my president.
Well, I think she's misdiagnosed it. It has nothing to do with morality. You don't care about morality.
Of course we do.
Your party doesn't support standards of morality. Anything. You can do drugs. You can be homeless. You can hit people, rape people, let other murderers into the country. You can do all kinds of things. They don't judge. They're going to let the son of Sam. You're going to let the son of Sam.
Sam out of jail. The son of Sam.
You guys apologize to a guy who tried to shoot the president.
Keep the son of Sam.
Your morality.
Judge said that.
Don't talk to Bill Clinton about morality.
You guys got evangelicals to support a guy who was cheated on every single wife that he's
But
had.
who cares if I like him?
I said I don't care. I have accepted
No, but why do your peers? Why do you? I'm doing it, Scott Jennings. Get your finger out of my face. No, why do liberals care that we like him? It's because they cannot get themselves emotionally out of the way, and it bothers them. They know that they might be wrong. The sunk cost of hating somebody
because it
rips
has
you apart.
electoral consequences.
Not everybody
because
thinks that
say,
way.
Oh, I don't.
We don't walk around and go, "What's the polling say?
Well,
What's
what do
the
you care
electoral
about?
college?"
Then why are we looking at any video of Obama? What do you care? That suit was fly, and just let him have his stupid museum.
I like the suit.
You did not. You definitely.
I love the
terrorist
suit.
jabs
I
or
own
whatever
a
about
tan
him.
suit. Darn it!
You did not criticize him for that at the podium.
I wasn't even on the 5 back then.
On Watters'
And I
world?
definitely would not have.
Roll
Coming up
the
next,
tape.
stop.
What this entire exchange really exposed is how deeply politics, especially around Donald Trump, has stopped being about policy for a lot of people and instead become about identity, emotion, loyalty, and tribal belonging. And honestly, that's the part of this clip that should concern people the most. Because when Greg Gutfeld asks, why do liberals care if people like Trump, he's pretending that support for Donald Trump exists in some harmless vacuum, like people are arguing over a favorite sports team or favorite actor. That framing is intentionally dishonest because Donald Trump is not simply a celebrity people casually admire. He is the president of the United States. His decisions directly affect healthcare, immigration policy, voting rights, women's rights, foreign policy, taxation, education, the judiciary, labor protections, climate policy, and the lives of millions of people. So yes, people are going to care when others enthusiastically support someone they believe is causing real harm. That's not emotional instability. That's politics. And Jessica Tarlov was completely correct to bring morality into the conversation because morality absolutely matters when discussing political leadership. The idea that morality somehow becomes irrelevant the second someone enters politics is one of the most corrosive things that has happened in modern political discourse. Trump supporters constantly try to separate Trump's personal conduct from his presidency, as the character has no connection whatsoever to leadership. But character influences decision-making, it influences empathy, it influences accountability, it influences how power gets used. And what's so frustrating is that many of the same conservatives defending Trump today spent decades presenting themselves as defenders of family values, moral standards, Christian ethics, personal responsibility, and character-based leadership. What's so frustrating is that many of the same conservatives defending Trump today spent decades presenting themselves as defenders of family values, moral standards, Christian ethics, personal responsibility, and character-based leadership. Now suddenly morality doesn't matter. Now suddenly affairs don't matter. Now suddenly dishonesty doesn't matter. Now suddenly fraud doesn't matter. Now suddenly criminal indictments don't matter. Now suddenly inflammatory rhetoric doesn't matter. Now suddenly cruelty doesn't matter. Everything gets rationalized because protecting the political tribe became more important than maintaining consistent principles.
And that is exactly why so many critics of Trump view the movement almost cult-like at times, because there is a noticeable unwillingness among many supporters to apply the same standards to Trump that they would apply to literally anyone else. And honestly, Chris on Culture made an important point when he said that if you are incapable of criticizing your favorite politician, that's a problem. I would go even further than that. The entire concept of having a favorite politician, the way people have favorite celebrities, is deeply unhealthy for democracy. Politicians are public servants. They are not personal heroes. They are not family. They are not your friends. They are individuals temporarily entrusted with enormous power over society. The relationship citizens should have with politicians is supposed to involve scrutiny, skepticism, accountability, and evaluation, not emotional devotion. But with Trump, politics became intensely personal for millions of people. And that's why conversations like this become impossible sometimes. Because to many hardcore supporters, criticism of Trump feels like criticism of them personally. Trump is no longer just a politician they voted for. He became tied to identity, culture, grievance, masculinity, anti-elitism, nationalism, rebellion against institutions, and social belonging. Supporting Trump became symbolic. It became emotional. That's why Greg Gutfeld keeps asking, why do you care that I like him? Because in his mind, liking Trump is comparable to liking an entertainer or a public personality. But Jessica Tarlov's point is that political support has consequences. If someone supports policies that hurt vulnerable people, critics are not obligated to treat that support as morally neutral. That distinction matters enormously. And honestly, Jesse Watters' contribution to the discussion perfectly demonstrated the intellectual dishonesty that dominates so much modern political media. The second morality got brought up, he immediately pivoted into caricatures about Democrats supposedly supporting criminals, violence, chaos, drugs, and lawlessness. This is the standard Fox News formula. Avoid defending Trump directly by redirecting into exaggerated fear-based narratives about liberals. But notice what never happens. They rarely seriously engage with Trump's actual behavior. Instead of arguing that Trump is morally admirable, they pivot toward Democrats are worse, everyone is corrupt, nobody's perfect, oh, you're just emotional. That's because defending Trump's conduct on its own terms is extremely difficult. And the irony is overwhelming because many of the same people screaming about morality under Democratic administrations suddenly become relativists the second Trump is criticized. Standards completely disappear, principles become flexible, accountability becomes selective.
That inconsistency is exactly what frustrates people. And honestly, one of the most revealing parts of this entire clip is how much of Fox News political discourse now resembles entertainment wrestling rather than serious political discussion. Chris on Culture mentioned Scott Jennings comparing political television to wrestling or Hollywood performance, and honestly, that comparison is incredibly accurate. You can literally see it in the clip. The interruptions, the exaggerated outrage, the finger-pointing, the sarcasm, the audience-style reactions, the theatrical shouting, even the laughter. A lot of these personalities are not engaging in good-faith political analysis. They are performing conflict for ratings, audience validation, and partisan reinforcement. Politics becomes content. Outrage becomes entertainment. Tribal loyalty becomes monetized. And the dangerous part is that millions of viewers consume this every single day as though it is genuine intellectual debate rather than political performance art. Because beneath the joking tone, these narratives shape how people understand reality. They shape how people view immigrants. They shape how people view elections. They shape how people view crime. They shape how people view political opponents. They shape whether people trust democratic institutions at all. That's why dismissing it as just TV can be dangerous. And honestly, Chris on Culture touched on something extremely important when he talked about friendship and support. He basically said he's not obligated to comfortably associate with people who actively support politicians harming people he cares about. Some people hear that and immediately think it sounds divisive, but the reality is politics affects real lives. This is not theoretical. If someone supports policies that cut healthcare access, people can lose treatment. If someone supports attacks on voting rights, democratic participation weakens. If someone supports anti-immigrant crackdowns, families get separated. If someone supports reckless foreign policy escalation, lives are at risk. If someone supports attacks on labor protections or social programs, working families suffer. So yes, politics becomes deeply personal because the consequences are personal. That doesn't mean everyone who votes differently is evil. Politics is more complicated than that. But pretending political choices exist in some consequence-free moral vacuum is simply dishonest. And that's why the why do you care argument ultimately falls apart. People care because power matters. People care because policies matter. People care because leadership matters. People care because morality matters. And perhaps most importantly, people care because modern political movements increasingly shape the social environment everyone has to live in together. That's why Donald Trump is different from simply liking a musician, athlete, or television personality. Trump supporters helped return him to the highest office in the country. His administration controls massive governmental power. That power affects courts, laws, policing, healthcare, civil rights, international conflicts, economic conditions, and democratic institutions themselves. Criticism of that is not irrational obsession. It is civic engagement. And honestly, one of the saddest things about modern politics is how normalized political worship has become. Instead of demanding accountability from leaders, many people now emotionally defend politicians the way fans defend celebrities online. Every criticism becomes personal. Every scandal becomes a conspiracy. Every contradiction gets rationalized away. That environment destroys healthy democracy, because democracy requires citizens willing to criticize leaders, including leaders they voted for. And that's the key difference Jessica Tarlov was trying to point out throughout this argument. You can support policies without emotionally worshiping politicians. You can vote for someone while still criticizing them. You can align with a political party without abandoning moral standards. But once politics becomes pure tribe loyalty, accountability disappears. And when accountability disappears, powerful people become dangerous very quickly.